This is a continuation to Loving Doubt's tag, Portrait of an Atheist. What are my political views? Well, my views are, by definition, green libertarian bordering on anarchist or anti-statist. Sadly, about half of the libertarians are crazy conspiracy theorists who don't really understand the free market. And if they do, they think it's been affected by the Illuminati, Masons, the Council on Foreign Relations, or the Bilderberg Group. My views hold to those of Jefferson and Paine, both pre-Darwin pantheists bordering on atheism. George Washington said that the government is like fire, and that a little bit can be useful, but too much can be deadly. I am for as much freedom for the people as possible. There is a confusing understanding of the free market that a lot of people fail to understand. Therefore, I will try to use this analogy in hopes that it will help you understand. This analogy can also be used to explain freedom of speech and freedom of religion, or any kind of freedom for that matter. Also, folks, remember this is not an absolutely perfect analogy, as it's very complicated, so I don't want people coming out on here and trying to argue semantics in areas I haven't discussed. But I will accept your comments. Imagine that the government is a human. Businesses are natural species, and each one of us is a potentially emergent species, as in a free market, each one of us has the potential to become a business. Now, in a free market forest, natural selection assures that only the best ideas and most efficient adaptations survive, and the bad ideas fail. If an emergent species, or we citizens, don't like how a business is working, we can take our business elsewhere, or start our own, and help another business or species and form a symbiotic relationship with them, increasing our own survival and success. Then man comes along as a hunter-gatherer and works with the natural world, and as the government, remember. Then somewhere along the way he learns that he can give preferential treatment to some animals or plants, giving them extra food and resources, and in return he gets more food, services, and resources from them. This is called artificial selection versus natural selection. In government, this is called subsidies. The business or animals lose efficiency over time in mechanisms to survive in a free market. Chickens are an example. You leave them out in nature, they will die. But they have no need for it. They are protected and nurtured by man or the government, and they become very efficient at being useful to their protector. Man or the government then begins to take resources from the rest of nature to ensure the growth of itself and its domestic animals. Land and resources are stripped from the species that now have less advantage of competing, even if they are better at providing services to the emergent species or citizens. These are called taxes. At this point, man or government explodes in their ability to expand and begins mass producing its domestic animals or big businesses, causing many competitive species or businesses to go extinct, leaving even more room for expansion. If man, or the government, finds a species that it doesn't like one that shows harm to its domestic animals in reproducing, it will put measures into place to eliminate it. This is called prohibition of, say, drugs, guns, or prostitution. This will then lead to things the animal fed on to overpopulate, causing disease and starvation in the population. The problem is that man and government do not understand the complex inner workings of nature or society well enough to see the side effects that its one-track mind will cause when it makes a major decision. Nature has natural balancing mechanisms that will right itself when something is out of whack. Humans and government do not understand this. Sometimes natural fires or economic slumps will occur, and the government or man will get involved. If they try to stop the fires from happening, over time the problem will build up, causing things like economic meltdown or massive forest fires. Sometimes man or government will stick with one type of animal or business because they deem it to be better than the rest. Then a disease could come along that the man or government has not anticipated, and the man and the animal will suffer terribly when the breed is destroyed, and man will have to spend tons of resources finding an alternative. At a certain point, man has reached a point to where the population is so big, they begin to notice the impact they are having on the environment and becomes concerned. so they begin attempts to save species and do environmental preservation. The intentions are good, but as they do not really understand all the inner workings of nature, they may, in attempts to do good, end up doing damage. This is called socialism. It is by far the only moral system possible in this abused version of natural world or markets. It is an attempt in all good intention to try and help, but because of the complexities, it can inadvertently cause more problems than it's attempting to fix. The only way to ensure that nature or the market restores itself is to reduce its numbers and power and create a sustainable way to allow diversity to thrive again in marketplace and nature. Communism is like a zoo. Fascism is like a scorched earth where man will only allow species that has genetically altered to grow. Neocons claim to be for free market economics, but they are just for keeping things the way they are and expanding powers or freedoms to their livestock of businesses. Nothing the Republican Party did in the years they were in power actually increased diversity. They gave more freedoms to banks, their cash cows, who without the government would crash and burn, as they are thieves using fractional reserve banking. They gave tax cuts, but the majority of them went to big corporations or more of their livestock. It's like someone claiming cows are survival of the fittest when they haven't a clue how natural selection works. The same is true how the Republicans distorted and abused the word free market. However, since the average citizen does not understand how natural selection or the free market works, as neocons and big businesses would prefer, they will keep getting reelected because they will abuse both words for their advantage. They encourage blind faith in the free market and blind faith against an understanding of natural selection. Much of this has been driven by the organization known as the Family, also known as the C Street Gang, since the 1930s.